What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Joannis or Joe Hatagwa. I'm a Sierra Leonean American living here in Accra, Ghana. And if you want to know what I hate about living here in Ghana, then this is the video for you. All right, guys. So many people have been asking me what I love, what I hate about Ghana. And I thought today I can give you guys the real about what I hate about living here. Now, let me start by just saying I love living in Ghana. So that's the number one thing that I just want to be clear on that. I love it here. I love Ghana, but there are certain things that I hate and that I would love to see changed. And things that I do know I have solutions for and solutions to for those who are experiencing some of the things that I've experienced. So let's just start with that. So, um, before I get into it, let me let a couple people get on the live first. Again, I'm live on Instagram live. I'm on Facebook live. There's a few guys here on Instagram. Some of you guys are getting on YouTube as well. So I want to give it a little bit of time before everybody gets on. So you guys can feel free to start putting your questions in the chat. Nick Urkel asks, what are we talking about today? Today I'm talking about what I hate about living in Ghana, things that I hate living in Ghana more specifically. So I'm going to start giving you guys a list of things. And like I said, I love Ghana overall. There are some things that I hate or I would change or would like to see done differently. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. It's looking a little light right now, so let me give it a little while to let people get on. Just saying hi to everybody on Instagram Live. YouTube folks, are you guys joining? Let's see who's on YouTube. Give it a second for everybody to get on YouTube. I did start a little late today, so my apologies for that. Cool. Any questions before I get started? What's up, Cali Calv? What's going on? Thanks for joining. I see you. So the value of the dollar here, Bia asks. So it's basically 6 Ghana cedis for every $1. Mr. Bounce Los Angeles asked, did I go there for the year of return? So I did come to Ghana for the year of return. I was here in 2019 for like 5 days with a bunch of friends of mine from Sierra Leone. I actually came with them. And I got a chance to meet a company that I was advising at the time. And so as part of that process, I knew that I wanted to do more work here. But eventually that led me to move here. So for those of you who don't know, if you're new to my live, I am living here in Accra, Ghana right now. So Mr. Bounce Los Angeles, that hopefully that answers your question. Somebody here is from Gabon, says what it's the not sure I understand the question. Can you rephrase the question? That's Nick Urkel. Please rephrase your question. Let me see if I can answer that properly. Mr. Bounce Los Angeles says primary sources of income for the Americans there. It's a good question. Most of the people I know work for different multinational firms, or they work for themselves, or companies that allow them to work remotely. And then I do know some people who actually work for companies here locally, like as I do. I work for Jumia Ghana, and so I work for a local entity here. But before I get into the things that I hate, I wanted to give a little chance for people to get on. It looks like people are still joining, especially with the YouTube and Facebook. It's a little light night tonight with people joining, so I want to give it a little time before I start getting into everything. So let's keep it coming with the questions while I wait for the folks to get on from Facebook and YouTube. Let's see. Any other questions that I see here? Yeah, you guys have any more questions for me? Shout out to everybody joining on Instagram Live, on YouTube. No questions on YouTube today? It's a little light on the questions, guys. All right, so look, we got some more people joining. So real quickly, again, tonight is about what I hate about living here in Ghana. So I'm definitely going to go through some of those things with you. As I mentioned before, and I'll mention it again, I love it here in Ghana, but there are some things that I hate. And I do have some solutions or recommendations so that those of you who are coming to visit, you'll know what to do so that you can deal with some of these things. Um, So, Mr. Bounce Los Angeles says, oh, wait, okay. Nick Urkel asks, what is special about Ghana? Something you can see just in Ghana? That's a good question. So, I will say this Ghana was started by a very prominent Pan Africanist, Kwame Nkrumah. And so he spent some time in the diaspora in the UK and in the US, um, and really helping to build his foundation on Pan Africanism. And so I think that that helped with the founding of the country of Ghana, right? With having him bring Muhammad Ali, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Maya Angelou, Marcus Garvey, all these different people who are part of, civil rights movements and Pan Africanists, and having them come here and getting a chance to experience West Africa in a way that they might not have otherwise. I think was really helpful to kind of to bridge that gap. And so, yeah, I would say that that's probably one thing that's unique about Ghana. And if you look at Ghana's flag, the colors of the flag, they're based on the Pan African flag colors, right? Red, green, and black, and gold or yellow. And so it was just instilled from the country's inception. So I would say that's probably what's unique about Ghana. I don't know too many other countries that have done the same thing. But yeah, that would be what I would say is probably unique and different. So yeah, I hope that answers that question. What I think is special. Mr. Bounce Los Angeles says, even with the things you hate, would you still recommend folks moving there? Yes, I do recommend people move to Ghana if you have a couple things in place first: a source of income, a plan, and if you're open minded, then yes, absolutely, I would recommend moving here for sure. GMC Gabon says, or Gibbon, sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. What is the median income level needed to live comfortably in Ghana? That's a good question. I don't know what the median income level is needed to live comfortably in Ghana, but I would say you probably want to make at least 45K, dollars per year to be able to live okay, and most restaurants you'd like to go to, house help if you needed, rent and things like that, I think should be able to help. And so I think if you can make that level of income, and this is speaking to those who are from the diaspora moving here, sorry for shaking the phone. I think you need to be at least at that level to be able to kind of transfer what you're used to for the most part. If you're used to making more than that in the US, maybe be able to kind of transfer some of that over here. So that'd be what I would say. Some people might say less, some people might say more, depending on, if you want to have a luxury living. There's a lot of questions coming in from IG Live today. So let me jump to the YouTube Live really quickly first, and then I'll get back to the IG Live, and then I'll get into the 10 things I hate. There's a lot of questions coming up. We want to get more people on. So let's answer some of these questions, and then as people come on, I'll go into the 10 things, or the few things. So Angela asked, "What is the thing you miss about the U.S.?" Some of those things are going to be in my things that I hate. But I will say one of the things that I miss about the U.S. is I'll say my friends. Some of the friends that I had in the U.S., I have lifelong friends there that I don't get to see very often. Sorry, I keep kicking the stand. So my apologies for those of you guys watching on IG if it got shaky just now. So what do I miss? Yeah, I miss friends for sure in the U.S. I miss. I'll leave the other stuff out for the 10 thing or for the things that I hate. But yeah, I definitely miss some of my friends. I'll say that, and then more to come on that in a second. Um, African Pride says, in every place one finds himself or herself, there will be things you love and you hate. So just combine the two things I love and hate about Ghana instead of always separating the two. Okay, that's fair. I think for this one, I'm going to do it though, because it could be a conversation about each one. But I'll definitely do things that I love too. But yeah, that's a good feedback for sure. Um, And Ruben says, "Hey Joe, so I hear that 2,500 per month is a good amount to live comfortably in Ghana. Is that about right?" It can be. It can be. Um, I would say it can be. I think it depends on how you want to live, right, and where you want to live. So rent can be anywhere between $500 and $1,000 a month, depending on how you're used to living in the U.S. and transferring that lifestyle here. And so, with $1,500 extra per month, you can think about how you want to use that money to be able to do the rest of your living and your living expenses. But I think you could live off 2,500 a month. Yeah, for sure. Um, Destination Africa Group TV is in the house. What's up, guys? So I met these two, this amazing couple last weekend, and I'm really looking forward to doing some content with them. And so they asked, "Is the language barrier a real challenge for you living in Ghana?" So that's a great question. I know you two are Ghanaian, and so you guys have a little bit easier of a time understanding some of the local languages. I myself do have a bit of a challenge with some folks speaking Gan and Tree, because it does happen from time to time. Like, for instance, today I was at a client meeting, and we're meeting with the client, good conversation, and two of us, one was from Nigerian and myself being Sierra Leonean American, we had gone to the restroom and came back, and we came back into a conversation that was full on Tree. And so we're kind of just standing there and can't be a part of the conversation. And this is a conversation where we as a company are trying to sell them on our services, and now the two most senior people can't be involved in that discussion because when we stepped away they started speaking in Tree. So yeah, it can be sometimes. It's not as bad as in some other countries, like if you go to France, for instance. So I wouldn't say that, but yeah, there are moments where there are conversations happening, and you're like, I have no idea what's going on. So yeah, it happens from time to time. Let's see if there's some more questions coming from IG Live. There's a lot of questions today before I get started. I like it. I like it. Um, I heard they're building a new university there. Have you heard about it? Somebody did mention something about a university to me recently. I don't know anything about it. I don't know, but I hear that there are a lot of requirements that go into play before building a university here, and there are systems in place for that. But Ghana's very big on their education, so I don't doubt that it will be one that, as long as it's accredited, it'll be a good one. Let's see. Let's see where are we at. Any other questions? I think my I think I just left my IG live. Did I just leave my IG live? Sorry guys, I think I just paused my IG live, but I'm back. A bunch of people are joining and jumping off. Okay, so here we go. Mr. Bounce Sanchez, is there any disparity or rifts with the diasporans and the local? I haven't seen any rifts between the diasporans and the locals so far. So good. It doesn't seem like that, but it hasn't been anything that I've seen personally. And I work with a lot of locals, but there are some others who are from other countries living and working here, and we seem to get along with everyone fine. So yeah, I mean, so far so good. But then again, if they're speaking in Tree, I have no idea what they're saying. But as far as I know, it's been all good. And from my conversations with people, it's been great. I mean, Ghana is a very welcoming country and very welcoming people, and culturally very welcoming. As I said, I think a lot of that has to do with the origins of the country being about Pan Africanism in the first place, and so I think that has a lot to do with the welcoming nature. Everywhere you go, it says Akwaba, right, and which means welcome, right? And so I do think it's there shouldn't be any rifts. If there are, I haven't heard or seen any of it personally or from anyone I know. All right. Nick says, what is a tourist city? What is the tourist city of Ghana? I like languages. I like to learn new languages. And which city could I live? So these are a lot of great questions, Nick. And I think this might be better answered by different folks who might be from Ghana. I know that Cape Coast is one place people like to go to get more history. Kumasi, obviously, Accra has a bunch of stuff here. But I think Accra's capital city is probably the most touristy because that's where everybody comes when they come to Ghana. So if you want to see touristy stuff, Accra is probably the place to go, one of the places to go. But I would definitely say, for the other folks who are on the live, definitely say what other cities you think you should go. There are many languages here. There are 13, as far as I understand, there are 13 recognized national languages, but there are 88 different tribes and languages, as far as I understand, 87 or 88 different tribes and languages in Ghana. So there are many different dialects and languages. So, but 13 recognized as national languages. So many languages here. The one that's most commonly spoken here in Accra is Tree. And so that's what I can say. That's the full extent of my knowledge about languages in Ghana. Is it easy to network in Ghana? Great question. It can be, depending on who you know and what you like to do. So for me, I am the type of person who, when I go somewhere, I tend to be introduced to a friend of mine's friends, and I usually become a part of that crew, and then expand from there. And that's happened with me twice here in Ghana. So I have two different groups of, like, I would say acquaintances right now. We're building friendships, right? Because it's still early. But like, I would say some of them are friends, but we're building friendships. So for sure that is happening over time. But yeah, I mean, you have to go to events that are thrown by diasporans if you want to meet other diasporans. Having a job here locally helps a lot because you're in an office environment with people, and so you're communicating people on a day-to-day basis. Friendships tend to form in that way. So those are two ways to do it. I also have met a bunch of people who create content, social media content creators. So I've gone to events for that and met some people, and so I consider some of those people friends as well. And so yeah, I haven't had such a hard time, but I think it depends on who you are and how you network. Um, but I would say the number one most important thing when it comes to networking, regardless of where you are, is what value are you bringing to other people, right? When it comes to networking, that's the most important thing, right? I think a lot of people go into networking hoping that somebody is going to do something for them without ever offering something to those people first. And so, when it comes to finding jobs, being recommended for different things, that all comes from offering value to someone and that person saying, you coming to mind when that person is talking to someone else, right? Because it's not who you know. Sorry, it's not what you know, it's who you know. But I go a step further than that. It's not just who you know, it's who you know, that knows what you do well, um, and know what you do in order to tell other people about you when you're not around, right? And so you definitely want to make sure that you're offering value. And so if you are, the networking is not too difficult. Good questions. Have I made any attempts to learn Tree? And if so, how difficult was your experience? I've made attempts. Yes. I've made attempts. I actually did a video on 25 Tree words and phrases, and then I did an extra 10. Um, I'm still working to learn the local languages in Sierra Leone. So I am not a linguist by any means. So learning new languages is a bit of a challenge for me, especially when they're not rooted in the Germanic languages, right? Since I'm so used to English being my first language. Technically, it's my second language, but by the time I was of speaking age, I was speaking mostly and only English. So at this point, I would say I have not been able to pick up on Tree too much. I just know how to say welcome and a few other phrases, but I'm gonna leave it there. But yeah, so those are some great questions. How is the process of getting citizenship for Americans? That's a great question. Don't know the answer to that. I have residency. I don't have citizenship. I have dual citizenship in Sierra Leone, not here in Ghana. Lots of good questions coming in from IG Live. All right, let me move back to the YouTube and Facebook Live questions. All right, let's see what we got. Ruben said, okay, so we've already answered that. Another one from Ruben. How open is Ghana culture to African Americans establishing a healthy African American Afro culture? Music, food, spirituality, not organized in religion, entertainment, movies, fashion, TV, etc. Okay, so let's start with the spirituality, not organized in religion. I would say there are exceptions to every rule, but in general, Ghanaians are very religious and mostly Christian. So, from what I understand, in at least Accra, I don't know about in the outskirts because I think like in any country, right? You have people in the outer regions who are more into maybe traditional things from further back. But as far as I understand, people are very, very, very religious, Christian specifically. And so I would imagine there's probably a small subset of folks here. You can find your tribe anywhere, right? So yeah, spirituality for sure. But I'm not really sure that it would be as widespread as maybe in different other regions of the world, like in the US and other places where you can find different groups of people on different paths spiritually. Um, and even there's a lot of religious oppression in the US too, so we'll keep that separate. But yeah, I mean, I think in other places you might find it a little bit more uh, spiritually diverse. So from what I've seen, anybody from here in Accra can or Ghana can definitely correct me, but that's been my experience so far. As far as music, food, and Afro culture, establishing, I mean, I think I need to understand more about what you mean by establishing that. I mean, I think that I think, like I said, Ghanaians are very open to people coming in. But of course, I think when you come into another country, I think the most important thing, regardless of whether it's Ghana or anywhere else, is coming in and humbling ourselves and getting to understand the culture locally first before trying to introduce anything. The best thing to do is understand the people locally before you introduce anything new, so you understand how to introduce it without offending any of the locals. So that'd be what I'd say is my best piece of advice, establishing and introing anything. However, you can always find a customer base in the diasporans, right? So there are like restaurants where mostly diasporans eat. Vegan food is mostly something that I've seen diasporans eat. There are not a lot of locals who I've seen eating vegan food. So, and I eat a lot of vegan food because I am vegan. And so I go to those restaurants, I frequent them, and I don't see a lot of locals there. So that would be what I would say about that. All right, cool. So while A asks, lots of stuff outside Accra too. They're finally launched a drive to promote domestic travel across the other regions, which don't always get the same shine. True that. So those of you who are interested, definitely travel. When you come to Ghana, definitely travel outside of Accra and outside of Cape Coast too, because everybody goes to Accra and Cape Coast, but there are other areas of Ghana that are definitely underrepresented. All right, Stephen says, greeting from Frankfurt, Germany. Shout out to Frankfurt, Germany. I was going to try to say something in German because, as I mentioned before, I'm not a linguist, but I do know how to say, do you know how to speak English? So, sprechen Sie English is what I would say. But shout out to you in Frankfurt, Germany. Okay, so Miss P says, hey, Miss P. Shout out to you. Thanks for coming. Stephen says 80% are Christians, 10% are Muslim, 10% are African religion. There you go. So that is according to Stephen from Frankfurt, that is the makeup of the religious affiliations here in Ghana. Completely agree. Great to immerse yourself in the culture first. Cool. And Stephen says Guten Tag, which I do know means like good day, right? Or hello. And Bruder, I think, is brother, if I'm not mistaken. So I got a little something, I took 6 weeks of German in school, but it wasn't for me. It was a little bit of a harsh language for me. I went with Spanish. Okay. All right, cool. So we got a bunch of questions out of the way. So I know you guys have joined because you want to know what I hate about Ghana. So I just want to be clear again for all of you who just joined. This is not to bash Ghana at all. I love living here in Ghana, right? And I would not change living here for the world. However, there are some things that I would like to see changed, and there are some things that I would recommend you do if you run into some of these things. Okay, so I'm hearing that the reflection of the ring light on my glasses is a little distracting. So if I do it from this angle, you don't see the ring light reflection, right? So hopefully that works. All right, cool. So let me get into my list. And you guys let me know your thoughts here if you are in Ghana and you have the same things and you have recommendations for folks who are experiencing these things, or any thoughts. So the first thing on my list is multiple calls back to back to back if you don't answer the first one. So this isn't something that's just exclusive to Ghana. It's something that I have experienced in Sierra Leone too, and and it's something that happens. So I think the thought process is maybe they just maybe you missed the call, and if they call again, you'll answer. But this has happened to me on many occasions at work and personally, where the call just goes over and over, like 2 or 3 times in a row. And so for me, it's not a big deal, right? It's just it is what it is. I just hit silent if I'm in a meeting or something like that, and I make sure that my phone is on vibrate or on silent when I'm in meetings to make sure that that doesn't happen. But that's definitely one thing that is on my list. I don't know if that's happened to any of you guys, anybody else here, but that's a huge one. So let me know if that happens to you. Another thing that has happened to me in Ghana, and also in Sierra Leone too, is showing up at your house unannounced, and that happens with family members a lot. With me in Sierra Leone, especially at the compound, the chief compound that my father stays in right now currently, and that I've visited from time to time, and also when it comes to like service workers that are doing work. Um, that has been interesting. People just showing up. So like last Friday, the plumber was here to do some work in my bathroom, and at about 9 o'clock, when I was at the office, I get a phone call from the building manager saying, "Hey Joe, we're here at the door to do the work. Like, is anybody home?" No, no one's home. I'm at work. There's no one here, and so I had to call the my housekeeper, or they called my housekeeper to have her come so that she could open the door for them to do the work. But it would have been nice to get a call the day before to let me know we're planning to come tomorrow, or earlier in the morning we plan to come by 9. Can we work something out? But like those kinds of things are things that happen. So those are the top. Those are three right off the jump. But like there are a bunch of questions coming in, so I feel like I got to jump into these questions, and I'll jump back into my list. Um, So, um, in early dating scenarios, that ends quickly. I guess that's the calling back to back. Yeah, I can imagine that, depending on who you are. And this is A Joy Consulting, by the way. And also with clients who are unnecessarily aggressive. Yes, so that has been the case. So with clients who are unnecessarily aggressive, they will call back to back to back. I work in advertising sales. And so we have one particular client. She's very nice. She's a very nice person, but man, if she needs something, she will call you frantically, like, I need it right now. Now she can't get back to you with that sense of expediency, but when she needs it, she needs it. So it is what it is. Yeah, so yeah, that's a thing. But yeah, so what do we got? You're at the perfect angle. Oh, okay, got it. From the light in the ring light. Yes, got it. Changing Ghana comes slowly, but will come. Sure. People just showing up. That's part African culture, unless you're in a gated community. Yeah. I guess that's true. I mean, even here, because it's like the service workers will stop by just at any point in time. And in Sierra Leone, it's definitely a thing. I was staying with my cousin, and now that she's married, his family members show up all the time, like just randomly. And the thing is, when people show up, you're supposed to feed them, right? It's just a part of our culture. And so sometimes that means somebody's cooking or somebody's heating something up, and you may not be prepared for it. So that's just something you gotta realize if you're gonna be living here and you're gonna get to know people locally, and if you're gonna have like local workers and people doing stuff for you. um, Miss P says, "Oh no, I don't like that. A friend of mine did that at 9:30 a.m. I didn't let her in." Yeah, people just showing up unannounced. It is just part of our culture. It is what it is. You just got to get used to it. But what I do is I have started to set boundaries a bit as much as I can. And so what I try to tell people is that I may not be home, and so like it makes sense for you to just let me know you're coming over first. Like before you leave your house, let me know so I can let you know if I'm going to be here. Um, so Tabasco says they always come with hungry belly. Yeah, true. True. When people want to eat, that's one of the reasons why they show up at your house, for sure, for sure, if they're hungry. Um, cool. So those are first three things on the list. Again, no big deal, but just like things that are like pet peeves. And so what I've done is I found ways to kind of find my ways around it. So again, silencing your phone if people call back over and over again, just silence your phone. Setting boundaries for people who show up, just let them know to call you before they show up. Repetition is important, so you may have to say it more than once, but just do that. What is Wiley says before you leave your house, right? Here in the UK too. I wish more people would. Yeah, I mean, I just try to set boundaries, just let people know, look, before you come, just call me first. Let me know that you're coming before you leave, so I'm prepared, right? You just never know what's going on in someone's house at the time that you just show up at their house. You know what I mean? Like, at least give them a chance to be prepared for you to come over. So those are some of the things. Like I said, no big deal, not a deterrent from moving here at all, but just some things to think about. All right, so let me get back to my list. So I mentioned those things. Oh, here's a big pet peeve of mine. This is a big one, and this isn't just in Ghana, but it also is something I've seen in Sierra Leone, and I've heard it's in other places, Kenya, South Africa as well. Businesses not being owned by Africans. This is really, really a big pet peeve of mine, and it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? Because some of the nicest establishments that you can visit, really, really nice places, and you're like, wow, this place is nice, and then you find out it's owned by someone who's not of African descent. Well, we all come from Africa, but you know what I mean, of recent African descent, right? In the last like 700 years, right? And what you find is there's a lot of these folks are like from India, Lebanon, China, UK, US, who own a lot of these things and aren't, like I said, aren't people of African descent. And so that is just something I really wish I could see be different. I wish there were more of us owning our own businesses. And so part of why I'm here is to work with startups and help startups build and grow to get to a place where there are establishments that people who are not only locally born and raised frequent those businesses, but also the diaspora frequents those businesses. I try as much as I can to shop and to buy from local establishments as much as I can. It's difficult to say the least, but I do try as much as I can, especially when I'm ordering food, because the folks who came here to build businesses already came with capital, which means they had something going on elsewhere. They don't need our money, right? And you want to keep money circulating in this economy, and you want to help this country advance. Then you need to be eating and buying local. So that's one of my biggest pet peeves, and so that's one thing that I would say. I don't know of any databases right now that list all the places owned by local Ghanaians, but as much as I can, I try to find them. Like the building that I live in is owned by Ghanaians, right? So, the apartment that I live in is owned by Ghanaians. There was another apartment that I was looking at that actually Wodemaya did it recently interviewed the owner of that building. He's Nigerian and Sierra Leonean. That's another building that I looked at, but like I'm in my mind, I can't live in an apartment that's not owned by a Ghanaian or someone of African descent living here. I did live in Sun City for about a month, so that went against my rule. But I wish there were more places like Sun City or better than Sun City owned by Ghanaians. So that's what I'd like to see more of. And so that is one of my pet peeves, unfortunately, is that many businesses here are owned by people from not from here. Um, okay, so just going back to some of the comments from people showing up at your house. A Joy Consulting says that's why so many Americans move far away from their families. My dad was big on feeding visitors and would get upset if they did not eat. Yeah, it's just kind of it's part of our part of our culture and our heritage. So what else we got? A result of colonization or gentrification? AJ Consulting. Let me know what that's a question. People move what businesses? Yeah, ask me that question again. I missed your original question. So here, okay. So there's a couple things. So VLC, shout out to VLC. Thanks for joining. I think it's my first time seeing you, or at least the first time commenting. Yes, for sure. Those that are local should definitely be the majority owners. Yes, for sure. Um, Tabasco says, I read an article recently that the Lebanese are escaping their country and seeking sanctuary in West Africa. Now, Lebanon's been going through a civil war. I don't know how much you guys know about this, and I don't want to get too political about this, but the US had been selling arms to Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabians, and I'm not very well versed in this, but I know enough. Saudi Arabians have been funding some of the militia groups in Lebanon, and what ends up happening a lot of times is a lot of civilians are being caught in the crossfire of the civil war that's happening, and so a lot of them are leaving. So I met a lot of Lebanese in the U.S. All the corner stores when I was in Brooklyn, the four corner stores that I frequented were owned by this Lebanese family, and yeah, a lot of them are here who own businesses here, and so yeah, I mean, so yeah, you can imagine they're leaving their country, and West Africa is an amazing place to come to. So you find that you are finding a lot of them here for sure. YOSA has a great approach. I have a group travel company, and a goal is to do the same, to produce goods and services from African businesses. 100%. That's what we need to do. I love that. Tabasco says there needs to be a directory of African-owned businesses. There does. Maybe it's on us. While you're all here as a group, let's think about that. Let's figure out how we can pull together a list of African-owned businesses so that people who come to visit can frequent those businesses, and those who are living here can as well. Steven says the owners of big businesses is owned by foreigners because of the interest rate in Ghana is difficult for local Africans to own their own businesses. The banks, yeah, are in the way of succeeding. Yeah, that's true. Getting loans from banks and all of that kind of stuff, it's very difficult to start businesses if you're from here locally, because building up the cash capital to start a business is difficult. And so like big restaurants and things like that are difficult to do. So I understand that for sure. Other questions and comments from the IG live. I'm just looking here. Let's see. Manifest it. Yes, business is being owned by people not from the diaspora. Let's do it. Yeah, A-Joy Consulting for sure. Business opportunity. That's a business opportunity. Yeah, building a like a directory for sure. Yeah. Oh yeah, non-African Americans owning yeah, there are products in the US that are for people of color that are not owned by people of color. Like even all of the black owned TV networks are owned by non-Africans or non-blacks, right? OWN is mostly owned by Oprah, but with other people. There are definitely other owners, many other owners, bigger majority owners. There's the BNC network, that new one, if I'm not mistaken, that's owned by the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Then there's the Fox Soul, which seems like it's all black, but that's owned by Rupert Murdoch and the Murdoch Empire. And if you guys know anything about them, those are some interesting characters. BET, of course, is part of Viacom, which is owned by non-black folks. So yeah, I mean that's a thing around the world. Businesses that are directed to us are not owned by us, and so there's obviously an opportunity there to own a business and targeting us as people. Unfortunately, we are not the ones who own them most of the time. And I love that Lidex says, is it Lidex? Maybe it's Lidex. Don't forget to smash that like button, folks. I love that. Yes, please do. Please do. Like, comment, subscribe. If this is your first time here, definitely do that. And if you're watching on Instagram Live, jump over to the YouTube Live. I've pinned the link in the comment. It's just easier for me to see what's going on there. All right, cool. So let's get to the next on the list. So that was the biggest pet peeve. That actually probably should have been the first one, the number one, because that is really, really a big pet peeve of mine. And a big part of why I'm here is the fact that our businesses are not owned by us, and they need to be. And so I'm going to do what I can in whatever capacity I can to find investment dollars from people in the diaspora Africans in the diaspora and Black Americans in the diaspora to invest in businesses here so they can grow and they can be the businesses that we frequent. So that we're keeping the money flowing in our own economy. Okay, with that, let's move on to the next one. Man, this is a big one. Bugs, insects, in particular, mosquitoes. Mosquitoes. Yeah. The mosquitoes are everywhere. So a couple things to keep in mind. One, don't open your windows unless you got screens on your windows. All right? Because if you don't, you will have an issue with mosquitoes flying in. It is what it is, especially after it's rained. It's not ideal. And mosquitoes, if you're in an area where there are a lot of mosquitoes, you know what? I say a lot. Somebody mentioned that to me after my last live. So I'm going to actively work to not say. Let's see how well I do. So, mosquitoes, back to mosquitoes. One of the challenges I've seen is that. So, a couple things. I would recommend using what do you call it? A non toxic, DEET free, natural bug repellent. I use this one. This has like lavender in it and a bunch of it has eucalyptus and a bunch of other stuff. You could see the ingredients anyway. I'll put a link to how you can get something like this for yourself, especially if you're in the US and you're about to come here. Apply and reapply, number one. And number two, the other thing is getting mosquito coils. Mosquito coils are really helpful because they keep them away while you're outside or sitting in a dark, damp place. If you're going to be outside, like if you have an outdoor space like a balcony or something. So that's going to be good. And then you want to have a non-toxic bug spray that you could spray your room with before you leave for the day. And when you come back, there shouldn't be anything in there. That's just what I would recommend. You're not going to be able to get around the insects or the bugs, but you can protect yourself against them. And so that's another thing that I definitely dislike. My thing has always been I'm not afraid of bugs. I know that it might sound like it the way I'm describing my distaste and displeasure in dealing with insects. My thing is, I spend money to keep myself enclosed and keep the outside outside and the inside inside. So I try to keep insects from being inside. I don't leave food out because I don't want ants in my house, right? I mean, when I was living in New York, I didn't leave food out because I didn't want roaches in my house. I didn't want rats in my apartment, right? And so the same thing applies here. I'm not afraid of these bugs, but I also rather not deal with them flying around, crawling around within my apartment. So don't leave like sugar on the counter, cake, or anything like that. Ants love sugar and cake, so don't leave that out. And then don't leave your windows open or your door open, especially at night, because that's when the mosquitoes come out to play, and you will find yourself with a few mosquito bites on your legs. So a Joy Consulting says BET has done a huge disservice, sadly. Oof. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely different people who have different opinions on that. With BET Uncut formerly and all those other things. Yeah, I mean, I would say that it has its good and its bad. I mean, I'm not a frequent viewer of BET content, to be honest with you, but I do have friends that are employed by them. So, I will just leave it at that. But yeah, so let's get back to some of the other questions and comments on YouTube. So there's a question by Jack Jackson. How are the banking laws there? Is it legal to start a mutual credit union or traditional investment club? Okay. So now you're getting into a very specific topic that unfortunately I do not have the expertise in. I don't know about the banking laws here, to be honest. Now, here's what I will say. Do your research here before you come here. That would be the first thing that I would say. Definitely do your research here. Do your research before you come here. But there are ways to do things that don't require having a business here, though, right? So you can bring money into the country and give money to people without it having to go through traditional banking processes, right? So you can still fund and invest in companies here without having the investment club be locally here in case there are challenges with that, right? Because there's no problem with money coming into the country to fund businesses, but I don't know what the process is for starting banks. If anybody has this information, definitely reach out to Jack on this, or write it in the comments, because I don't know the answer to this, unfortunately. I hope that someone can help answer your question, Jack. All right, Steven says this should be opportunities for African Americans to invest in Ghana and the rest of Africa. 100% for sure. So VLC says, so do most Ghanaians or Africans that leave their country to work or further their education actually come back home to build? I think every country and every generation is different. Okay, so here's what I have seen with some of the younger generations. Some of them go to school elsewhere, or I've seen a lot of them go to school elsewhere and come back. I've seen a lot of that. But I also have seen, like with the previous generation, they go to school elsewhere and stay. So my parents were both born and raised in Sierra Leone. Um, my mom went to some school in Sierra Leone. My dad went to some school in Sierra Leone, if I'm not mistaken, but they ended up getting more education in the US and staying in the US until much later in life. So my father moved back in 2014 when he was already in his 70s, and my mother is moving back next year and she is in her 70s. So my experience has been that you do have some people in the younger generation though, Gen X and Gen Z, sorry, millennials and Gen Z, it seems like are more frequently going to school elsewhere and coming back more than the previous generation. So there's some good news there. Two questions from Instagram Live. I would like to know, does speaking in tongues have anything to do with African spirituality? I don't know the answer to that. I do know that people who aren't of color speak in tongues, but that does tend to happen in Southern Baptist churches, if I'm not mistaken. Is it Baptist churches? Sorry, Southern churches, I should say. And so maybe that did come from, but I don't know. I don't even want to speculate. So I would say maybe look that up online, and if you can find the answers to that, definitely share it with us. I don't know. And then, do I drive here? BEA 7284 says, do you drive there, or is it necessary to have a car? It's not necessary to have a car. There's Uber and Bolt. So there's easy ways to get around. There also is local taxis here too, so you can do that. I do not drive here, and I would not drive here until I've been here long enough to get used to it. And a joy consulting says, thank you for sharing your time and experiences. Much continued success to everyone, and I hope you all have a joyful evening. Thank you. See you soon. Okay, cool. All right, so back to the questions here. There's a few here. Here's another one. So YOA says, VLC, yes, in the past, some would send money home to build and return in retirement. Now many are coming back earlier. Okay, so yeah, we're all on the same page. Steven says, for the history, mosquitoes are the reason why white did not settle in West Africa. They called the white man grave because of mosquitoes. Yes, yeah, I do remember that. Because at the time of they were coming here, right? Most things were traded via the water, which meant you needed to live in cities by the water, which meant there were going to be a lot of mosquitoes, because mosquitoes like damp, wet areas, right? And so when the Europeans began to come here and to settle here, a lot of them did, which is why they always had governors here locally, and many of them didn't actually move here. They actually would govern by proxy and be back home, because you didn't want to move to this region, because a lot of them were dying from diseases that were carried by mosquitoes. So that is very true. That is some history around mosquitoes, for sure. VLC, others go back once their courses are finished and work for a few years and return. Diverse experiences. Yes. VLC says yes. Okay, cool. We should expect more locals owning properties, business, land, etc. That's good. Yeah, I think so. The more that the younger folks are going away for school, coming back and work for international firms, generating enough revenue to be able to save and build, that is a good thing. YLA says VSC, most do, to be honest. Land is usually generationally owned, and the culture was very much to build. Ghana and Africa also the highest rate of entrepreneurs in the world. True. By the way, I want you guys to know, I used to dread reading out loud in front of people. I have reading comprehension issues. You probably can't tell because I spent many hours practicing reading. Many hours, many more than the average person has to spend reading. I have to read. So I just like to share that kind of stuff just for anybody who's struggling with these kinds of things and may need to hear it. So the fact that I'm actually reading on live is kind of wild to me now that I think about it. Because when a teacher would call on me, like they're like, does anybody want to read this chapter? And I'm like, please don't pick me. Please don't pick me. Please don't pick me. And they'd be like, Joe. And I'm like, ah. So the fact that I'm doing it is actually pretty crazy. Just throwing that out there for anybody who needs to hear that. Um, any reading comprehensions or challenges that you might have with learning disabilities and all that, you can overcome them. I'm living proof of it. So I always try to throw that out there wherever I can, for those who might need to hear it. Okay, or if those of you who have children that might need some inspiration too, because I didn't have anybody. I didn't know that people dealt with this. I thought I was the only one, and so I found out later that there are many people who deal with these kinds of things, and so that was helpful. All right, so lifestyle things. Shout out to you. Oh, I think I know who this is. Maybe I don't. Maybe I do. So, what languages can you speak? So, English, of course, and I do speak Creole. Krio. Creole is a official language in Sierra Leone. It is something like Pidgin that you hear in other regions, but they're not technically considered a language. One of Sierra Leone's national languages is Creole, and so I do speak Creole. I understand it a whole lot better than I speak it. I am still working on it, so don't get me to try to speak it here because it's not going to happen. But I've been working on it, and so daily I am practicing my Creole. All right, Stephen says, I am a Ghanaian living in Germany and Italy for about 15 years, build my own house in Adenta and planning to open a business to employ people that work. That should be my contribution. See? So there you go. There's an example of someone who's gone abroad, helping to build and start businesses here in Ghana. Ruben says, Joe, have you been to the movie theaters or comedy clubs there? And is there room for us to come and establish that there? So I do know that Dave Chappelle mentioned that he's planning to start a comedy club here. Go watch. You definitely want to watch his interview with Naomi Campbell on her podcast. They spoke about that a little, pretty in depth. So yeah, as far as I understand, there aren't very many comedy clubs. It's not like the Comedy Store or Gotham Comedy Club and all these different places that you find, or in the US, or at least in New York and some of these other places. So I would recommend, but of course, coming here first before doing anything is good to see. There's another as far as movie theaters, I don't know, to be honest with you. I haven't decided yet on whether or not I want to go to a movie theater here or abroad. So I can't say that I know about any movie theaters. So not much that I do. I don't know much there. Miss P says you're doing a great job, Joe. Thank you. Yeah, I can pretty much hide it for the most part, but sometimes you might hear that I might mess up a word or two or something. I'm also slightly dyslexic too, so there's like a million things going on when it comes to reading for me. Anyway, VLC says I am planning on visiting Ghana next year. I was told that 1,500 for a month is a stretch. How would you say? See, there you go. How much would you say is a decent amount for 1 month staying for spending, not including housing? Somebody asked this question earlier. It's hard to say because it's always going to be based on what you plan to do and when you get here, right? And how you plan to do it. Everything that you want to do here can be done cheaper and then there's a more expensive way. Like, so if you want, you can do the local route and do local transportation and it's way cheaper, or you can do more expensive transportation and do like some of the touristy stuff where you pay someone more money, right? It can cost $100 or $200 in some cases to go to some of these tourist attractions if you pay a guide to be the person to drive you, and then the cost for the day and all that kind of stuff. So 1,500 can be a stretch. I mean, it depends on where you want to stay, right? So some of these Airbnbs can cost as much as, if you're renting out an entire place, they can cost as little as, $40 a day, as much as $80 a day. It depends on the size of the place and where you want to stay. So I would definitely. Oh, but you're saying not including housing, as you mentioned as the last statement. If you're not including housing, 1,500 should be fine. It depends on how much you want to spend on shopping, how you want to eat your food, right? If you want to go to Fat Fish, which is a great brunch spot but very expensive. If you want to go to Kozo, also a very nice restaurant, but it's a very expensive restaurant. If you want to eat local, it's much cheaper. So 1,500 should be enough to be able to spend, but just you just have to just really budget. And what I would do is do as much as you can before you come, just doing research on the different things you want to do to see how much all of them cost, and then do the cost analysis of all of that stuff and see what you have left over after 1,500. And then think about food, right? I mean, if you're going to be eating out every day, I would expect that you might be paying about $20 to $40 or $50 per meal, if depending on how expensive a restaurant you want to go to. So if you want to eat and you want to buy your own food, then that makes it a little easier if you're going to be cooking. But I think there's so many different variables. It's hard to say. But I mean, at least I would say come with at least 1,500. If you can come with 2,000, the more you can come with, the better. To be honest with you, because that just allows you to have more flexibility. So that would be my recommendation. So if you're not coming to next year, it should give you plenty of time to save up. But you do want to try to get the most out of the experience, though. Here's a question Jack asks, and it's a good, relevant question because there was just one the day before yesterday or yesterday. So Jack asks, what is happening in West Africa with at least 4 coups happening in 12 months? Is Ghana vulnerable to this? So coups, military coups. Yeah, they happen. It's a big part of West African history. It's happened pretty frequently throughout history. Ghana has had 4, if I'm not mistaken, in their history. In fact, the first president who I mentioned, Kwame Nkrumah, was overthrown by a coup. Now, that was the US CIA meddling in somebody else's business, so that's a whole nother thing. But the thing is once you have a coup, future coups are now possible, right? It's like the 4-minute mile. I think it was 1957 or 1967. Nobody had ever run a mile in under 4 minutes, ever. Or was it under 5 minutes? Whatever. Just follow me with this. So nobody had ever run a mile in human history, had never been recorded under that amount of time. 1957 or 1967, or in that about time, one person did it. Don't know their name, whatever. The next year, something like 30 people ran a mile in under that amount of time. So I say that to just illustrate the point that once somebody sees that it can be done, it gets done over and over again. Black billionaire Bob Johnson becomes a billionaire. Now there's, what is it, like 25, 30 black billionaires in America alone, and then so many African billionaires, right? So when it comes to any one time something happens, then it can happen again. And so, yes, a coup can happen anywhere here in West Africa because coups have happened in a bunch of countries here. So it just happened in Guinea this last weekend, but coups have happened previously. Sierra Leone has had coups before. Actually, the current president in Sierra Leone right now was a part of a coup like 25 years ago or something like that. So it definitely happens. Is Ghana vulnerable to a coup? I don't know. I don't know enough about the local politics here to be able to say that it can happen. I know that a former president just passed away within the last 6 to 8 months or so, or 9 months or so, and he was a part of a coup as well. So yeah, coups do happen. Yeah, I mean, for all kinds of different reasons. In Guinea, from what I understand, that president was part of a coup because the previous president had rewritten the constitution to be able to, or had tried to rewrite the constitution to be able to stay longer in office, longer than they should have, or that was agreed to. And then apparently this current president, I'm just speaking based on what I just read yesterday and today, was also planning to do the same. And so the military took over and said they're freezing changes to the Constitution so that you can't change the Constitution to be able to stay in office longer. So there are varying reasons for why coups happen. Some will say that they're not good at all. Some will say that they're necessary, depending on who's in office. I will just say, once it's happened once, it's possible to happen again. And so, um, this is why in certain countries they have certain things in place. There are things that people wouldn't be willing to do. Like in the US, for instance, even when presidents break the law, maybe like a president perjures themselves, Bill Clinton, or another president perjures himself or does witness tampering, Donald Donald Trump. They're not going to want to remove that person from office, because once you do it once, the idea is that it possibly can happen again, right? And so I think these are things that people are very worried about in the West, and so that's why you don't see it happen as often, because once you do it once, it can happen over and over again. And so that's the most that I can say about it here. Um, I'm not going to say that it won't happen again, but or that it will happen again. I just know that if it happens once, it can definitely happen again. All right. So the question about setting up financial institution: a few years ago, some banks that were mismanaged and close to collapse were taken over by the Bank of Ghana. Okay. So I guess the Bank of Ghana has taken over. Yeah, I would just say do your research if you want to. If you're talking about doing any collective banking or starting a bank here, you definitely want to do your research for sure. So Angela says, I appreciate you. Thank you. I appreciate you for being here and being on the live. Thank you very much. Stephen says, Ghana has been practicing democracy and press freedom for about 30 years. And I can assure y'all, with the constitution in place, that's not going to happen. Okay, so Stephen does not believe that a coup will happen in Ghana. Don't know. That's Stephen's thought process. Okay, while A says, if you want to set something up, make sure to do it properly. That said, it's good to know the regulatory environment is working. Okay. Yeah, oh, the late president was Rawlings. Yes, yeah. He was the one who ensures that future presidents serve only 2 terms, and that has been a hallmark of any Ghanaian president. Yeah, I mean, it feels like a lot of the coups happen because there are presidents who want to stay president longer than any originally agreed upon term. And so that seems to be where most of the coups tend to happen, or if they're just not able to serve as president in a official capacity in a way that I think the general public is agreed with. Okay, so let me get back to my list, because I wanted to go through this list of things that I hate, right? So another issue, a thing that I hate, is the sports, man. Sports. I am a very big basketball fan. The NBA is my first love for sports is track, and my second, but like track is only like, popular 4 times, once every 4 years, very infrequent. And so I don't get a chance to watch track, but I watch basketball. I'm a big NBA fan, and people here love their international football, or what we as Americans have deemed soccer. And so there's a lot of Liverpool and Man City and Manchester United talk all around me all day, and I don't know anything about it, right? But I will say this: 2 solutions for this. Number one, when it comes to, if you're a fan of sports in the US, get a VPN and get like Hulu Live or YouTube Live or whatever live, so you can watch sports live or record them and watch them later and then the next day, because the sports events do happen very late at night for us here in Ghana, because we're 4 hours ahead of Eastern Standard Time. So that would be my recommendation for those of you who are into American sports. Also, follow different channels on YouTube to get the updates. I follow like ESPN, or I subscribe to ESPN. I subscribe to a whole bunch of different channels. So I know what's happening in sports. Even though it's hours later than when it aired online, I'm still getting those updates and I still know what's going on. So that would be what I would say about sports. And then the other thing is, learn to love the sports from the countries that you're in, because you're going to be left out of the country, or at least learn what's going on. I'm still learning about the Euro League and the Premier League, and so the Euro Cup, right? In the Premier League. And I'm still learning about all these different soccer terms, right? And I'm still trying to get past the fact that soccer players flop. And I guess that's where The NBA players got it from. The Europeans that came over and started playing basketball in the NBA started flopping. So NBA players are flopping all the time. I'm still getting used to seeing somebody not get hit, but falling on the ground and putting their hand on their head and the whole thing. But I've appreciated. I have an appreciation for the sport, and I'm beginning to get a little bit more into it. So I would say when it comes to sports, you're just not going to be able to talk to as many people about your favorite sports if you have sports from back home that you like, especially if you're like a hockey fan. Like if I'm talking to anybody in Canada right now and you're a hockey fan, you're not talking to anybody here about hockey. It's not happening. Um, so yeah, I would definitely say try to get into the local sports here, and then also find ways to keep up with your sport. So that's one of the things I miss the most is sports. So somebody had asked me earlier in the live, what do I miss? Sports. Sports. Man, I miss basketball. I miss talking about basketball. I realized that in my last job in the US when I was at Hulu, we spoke so much about basketball. And I didn't realize how much I talked about it until after I left that job. And I realized that there's that void in my life where I'm not talking about basketball as much as I like or that I was used to. Excuse me. So that is one of the things that I hate. Or oh yes. So on that note of television content, again, so also watching my favorite shows is difficult because Hulu, Amazon, and what else? Hulu and Amazon, Netflix too, to some degree, don't play all of the content that I want to watch here, or I can't access them. So you have to use a VPN. I would just Google top VPNs, or if you listen to any podcast, they all have VPNs they do ads for. A VPN, don't get me to line or what the acronym stands for, but basically, it allows you to be able to say that your computer is actually in New York or Los Angeles or Chicago, even though your physical computer is actually here in Ghana. So you have what you call an IP address with your computer, and that basically is saying where you are located physically. Your VPN allows you to change your IP address. So any network that you're trying to get onto will think you are somewhere else. So if you remember in Nigeria, they had shut down Twitter, and so it didn't stop Nigerians from tweeting though, and that's because they had access to VPNs and they were just tweeting from Nigeria, but their devices said that they were in the U.S. So VPNs are going to be super important if you want to watch some of your favorite stuff you like watching from back in the U.S. Here, you're going to need to have a VPN. So find and buy a VPN. Some of them are about $9 up to $20 per month, depending on the number of devices and all those kinds of things and the level of security you want. But definitely, I would say get a VPN. So we got some sports talk coming, but let me get to that in a second. So Jack says thanks. Mame says, "Hey Joe, what are some nice areas in Accra that you think diasporans would feel comfortable in?" There's that word again. I'm trying not to say as much. Somebody mentioned that I say a lot, so there's now. So I will try my best to not say or and so there it goes again. So diasporans feel comfortable. Cantonments, Laboni, those are two areas I would say I think a lot of Americans or diasporans would feel comfortable in. Cantonments, Laboni, East Legon are all places. Even Chado, Osu, I guess everywhere. Um, it just depends on where you want to go and stay. So yeah, that's what I would say. So all the areas I named are all places that I go, and they all have restaurants and or nightlife that I have frequented in all of those areas. Why can't I send you a super chat, or perhaps I'm overlooking the button? That's a good question. Why you can't send me a super chat? I am. You might not be able to send me a super chat because maybe I am. I think I have to be over a certain number of subscribers. Do I need to be over 10,000 subscribers to get a super chat? I don't know, Jack. That might be the case. I'm only over two. I think I'm at what 20. Am I at 2,300 subscribers right now? So I don't know if I'm able to do super chats. Also, I'm doing this on Yard, on StreamYard, and not on YouTube Live. So maybe that's it. But I will find that out and let you know. But I do definitely appreciate you trying to send me a super chat. Shout out to you. Okay. Ruben says, do they have sports bars there? Yes. Well, they have bars that play sports, and they do have a sports. Yeah, if there's a sporting event going on, there's the what's the name of the place? What's the name of the place? Honeysuckle in Laboni has a bunch of TV screens, and they play sports there all the time. Honeysuckle in East Lake Goan does as well, the one at the ANC Mall. So yes, for big sporting events, all the TVs are on and they're playing sports. So they definitely do have sports bars. I don't know if the other ones besides those two, but yeah, those two are for sure. OD99 says the Lakers might be old, but I think they can win it this year. Thank you for that. I don't know who you are, but I don't know how you know that I'm a Lakers fan. But you know that I'm a big Lakers fan. And for those of you who aren't into sports, sorry, just one quick second about this. So the Lakers are old, and they're not old, by the way, because they are all my a little younger than I am. So I don't want to say they're old because then it makes me feel old. But in basketball terms, sure, they are on the older end. But that doesn't mean that they can't win it all. However, that means that they all need to be healthy, and since they're all older, that might be challenging. And there is a Brooklyn Nets team that's out there that's pretty stacked. So I don't know if they will be able to get past the Brooklyn Nets. I am a fan, but I'm also realistic. I'm not delusional, and I do know it takes a lot to win a championship, and I'm not sure they have the proper pieces. They have a lot of interesting pieces, 4 Hall of Famers, maybe 5 Hall of Famers on one team, but they're not playing at their Hall of Fame level right now. So that would be a question. That is a question still to be answered. But I am rooting for the Lakers, and I do want them to win because I do need LeBron to get his 5th ring, so that we can stop having this debate about LeBron and Kobe, and we can just have the conversation about LeBron and Jordan. Moving on. Thanks, Joe. Can you recommend a good internet service providers in Ghana? So I hear Surfline is pretty good, but MTN is what most people tell me has the best internet service in most places. I use MTN at home, and I've had much better service than when I use Vodafone. It's definitely better than Vodafone. Sorry, Vodafone guys, but Vodafone has been terrible. So MTN has been much better for me. Great question. Ruben says Lakers are the most smartest team in the NBA. They are the smartest team in the NBA. You have Rondo and you have LeBron. That the two of the highest IQ players in the NBA and probably in NBA history, to be honest. 2 of the top highest NBA IQ players in the NBA. So I think that that's really, really good that Rondo's back, and you got LeBron. LeBron is LeBron. He's that dude. So yes, I do think that they do. And so hopefully that helps when it comes time for the playoffs this year. So Cicely G says you only need 1,000 subscribers for Super Chat, and StreamYard does not prevent Super Chat. Days away from Ghana. Okay, Kwaba, welcome when you get here. So you should be able to then do the Super Chat. Who was the one that was asking that? That was Jack, I think. Yes, so Jack, you should be able to Super Chat. Thank you, Cicely. I appreciate it. All right. Oreo says, yeah, no way Lakers are winning. How dare you? Disrespect. The disrespect. Just throwing that out there. There's a possibility. There's a possibility the Lakers can win. Stop that. Stop that. They'll just come in here with that negativity. All right. So VPN. Yes, a VPN is a virtual private network. So everything I just described earlier is what a VPN is. Good question. Oh, good response. Thank you for that. Cicely with all the facts today. Cash says, have you traveled or ventured out other regions, cities in Accra, Kumasi, Tima? So I have passed Tima. I was almost in Tima today for a client meeting. Very far trip. Have gone to Cape Coast, but that's it for me. I haven't gone anywhere else yet. Do plan to go, but I haven't. Destination Africa Group TV agrees with me. MTN blows Vodafone out of the water, even on fiber broadband. You are absolutely right. The network that I'm on right now is MTN. I had Vodafone, and man, the upload and the download speeds. As a content creator for YouTube, upload and download speeds are really, really important. And this is one of the other things that I was going to mention that I hate is sometimes the upload and download speeds can be a nightmare, a nightmare. But MTN has definitely been really, really helpful over the last like 2 months. Once I moved to MTN, my internet speeds are much better than they were previously. So yes. Only one says, "Oh, I have to enable super chats." Oh, well then there you go. I don't know how to do that yet. So for all of you guys who don't know, I started my YouTube channel. So I had a YouTube channel 100 years ago. I say 100 years ago, back in 2009. I think I started my first YouTube channel. And I had it for like a year and a half. And then like throughout time, I've like uploaded videos there, but I haven't really been consistent. I hadn't been consistent on that channel. There's like 300 subscribers. And so that channel was like a bunch of like home-based business stuff that I did back in the day. So I haven't really been a YouTube like user until February of this year when I decided to actually become a content creator for YouTube. So I've only been live with this channel since February. And so like I keep hitting these milestones where like I qualify for monetization, or I qualify for super chats, or I qualified at one point to be able to do posts, to create posts in the community tab. And I didn't know any of that stuff. I had no idea what I was doing. So with each one of these things, I have to go to YouTube, watch a video on what it means and how to do it and how to best utilize it, and then I do it. So now that I know that super chats are enabled and it's something that I can do, and the only reason why I even know what super chats are, I kind of know what they are, is because one of the podcasts or one of the YouTube channels who's I subscribe to mentions super chats. So I'll have to do that. I will do that on my next live. I will have super chats enabled. Thank you for all of that information and insight today. Odie's 99 says LeBron equals possibility to win. See, that's the positivity I'm talking about. Yes, LeBron does equal possibility to win, always. LeBron has been to more NBA finals in the last 12 years than all other franchises combined. Okay? So let's put it that way. LeBron has either won. LeBron has either won the NBA Finals, been to the NBA Finals, or lost to a team who has gone to the NBA Finals in every year of the last, 11 or 12 years. So just put that into your minds. Just put that into your, put that in your pipe and smoke it. Right? Anyway, okay, speaking of sports, Rwanda started a basketball league that I thought was for the continent, but maybe not. Perhaps that will scratch your itch. Yeah, I mean, sure, I don't like watching. So I do like people at their best, put it that way. So I do like watching the best in the world at their best. And so I tend to watch like the NBA in particular and not other leagues. But I do go watch like casually, locally in person, like in Sierra Leone and stuff like that. I do plan to do that. So yeah. Jack says it is for the continent. It was probably solely hosted in Rwanda due to pandemic. Initially planned was to hold initial game across the continent and finals in Kigali. Yeah, I think wasn't this the league that J. Cole had a 3-day contract with and played with and then dropped out? Yeah. Does Ghana have Orange as an ISP? I don't think they have Orange as an internet service provider. I don't even know if Orange is here. Technically, I think Orange is here, but not really. I don't know. I haven't seen Orange. So it's MTN and Vodafone are the two big ones. And then I hear Surfline is another one. I haven't really used them, but like the main ones are MTN and Vodafone. YOA says yes. Not sure what this was for. I might have missed it. I've been neglecting the Instagram folks. I apologize. Let's see. Is anybody in here saying anything? We Africans need to need our own source of media. There are plenty of African sources of media, though, definitely. So I would say you can find Pulse Ghana, Pulse Nigeria. Pulse is a big one. There are plenty. You can just search them. You can find them. YOA says, yeah, J. Cole. Yeah, so J. Cole did a 3-day contract with the African League, and then but it was great because it brought some attention to it. So that was cool. Okay, back to my list. So that was all based on sports, huh? and in television content. What's my that's actually my full list. Yeah. All right. So we're now at 1 hour. Let me see. 1 hour and 19 minutes, almost an hour and 20 minutes. Does anybody have any more questions, comments that you want to share with me and the group as we bring this thing to a close? Oreos making fun of me. I'm a fan, huh? LeBron is tired, man. But I guess one could hope. How dare you? LeBron is tired? Okay. So let me be clear on this really quickly. For those who don't know, yes, I am a LeBron fan. I have been following LeBron's career since I was in high school. LeBron and I are the same age, born the same year. He was born after the summer, so he was in the class after me growing up. But his one of his high school basketball games were nationally televised when he played against Carmelo Anthony. I didn't watch it live, but I remember looking at the USA Today. That's a newspaper for those of you who aren't familiar. And what is a newspaper? I don't know because not everybody knows what newspapers are. It's like it's like a news blog, but like a physical thing. For those of you who don't know what newspapers are, and we used to read the newspapers back in the day. I am old enough that I read newspapers, but I was reading newspapers in high school, and so we would go to the sports section and we would read what happened. And so we were reading the stats. LeBron had whatever points. Carmelo had whatever points. I can't even remember. Then he was on ESPN, the magazine. He was on Sports Illustrated as a teenager in high school. And I was like, man, this kid is good. And I followed his career from the beginning. I can't imagine what kind of pressure that has to be on you to be able to perform when people have already called you the king and have deemed you to be the next Michael Jordan, all those kinds of things. Most of the next Michael Jordans never lived up to it. Vince Carter, Tracy McGrady, all these guys who are the next Michael Jordan, some of them might be Hall of Famers, but they're nowhere near LeBron's caliber to do what he's been able to do. So for you, Oreo, just some things to think about. LeBron has taken less to the finals and won with less than anybody else has done, except Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson took a very bad team to the NBA Finals and did win a game against the Kobe and Shaq Lakers. So Allen Iverson, all props to him. He's a Hall of Famer for that reason. But LeBron, I mean, there was even a parody on Saturday Night Live where they did LeBron and the others, and they had a guy that was like the janitor. He was playing like the way that like the world knows how bad LeBron's teams have been in the past, and he still went to the NBA Finals with some not so great teams. Now he also had some great teams. He also had Hall of Famers with him, but the guy has done a lot, and he's still doing it at this age. So this is me being a LeBron fan. So don't want to get too far off on a tangent because that's not for everybody. We're even losing viewers on the live as I talk about him. So let's leave that alone. Okay, so the question that Cali Calv has about the African news sources, are they owned by Ghanaians or Nigerians? The Pulse company that I was talking about. I don't know if Pulse is, but there are definitely African news organizations owned by Africans. Multimedia Group here in Ghana, I'm pretty sure is owned. Yeah, it is, because I spoke to the owner, and I was consulting a company that was consulting them. And so there are definitely media companies here locally that are owned locally, but they mostly focus on local content in the country. They don't tend to focus on global news unless it's a big story like the coup that happened in Guinea. So yeah, they're definitely locally owned media companies here on the continent. So I would definitely recommend just looking those up and finding out who they are, and if you want to find out stories about what's happening on the continent, and then definitely supporting those businesses. Okay. So Oreo says true. You agree? I appreciate it. My friends get on me for being a LeBron fan. My US friends, they always get on me about it. Because originally I was a New York Knicks fan and I gave up on the Knicks. And you're supposed to be a diehard Knicks fan for life. You're not supposed to give up on your team, and I did because I can't live with losing all the time. That's what the Knicks do, and they've made it a habit of losing, and so I just can't do it. And I don't want to see professionals who are paid significant amounts of money not giving their best, because obviously they're paid to give their best, and so they're not. So, but the Knicks were good last year, so we'll see if I'm into watching the Knicks again. All right, so Jack has another question. Beyond sports, we could follow LeBron's mindset when he insisted on hiring his childhood friend as his agent. The point is us helping pull each other up. Yes, very good point. But I will say this. Actually, Rich Paul was not his childhood friend. He met him a little bit later, but not too much later. It was still early on. Like, I think he was like a year in the league or something like that. Rich Paul used to actually sell jerseys in Akron and throw parties in Cleveland. He used to throw parties and sell jerseys in Cleveland, throwback jerseys and all that. He was entrepreneurial. He was a hustler. And so LeBron saw that and brought him into his circle very, very early on. But still, he knew him when he was like 18, 17. So for sure. But Maverick Carter was on his basketball team. Maverick Carter is the one who runs the movie production company that LeBron has. Maverick Carter was on LeBron's basketball team. Maverick went to college, ended up interning at Nike, I think working at Nike, and he was the one who got LeBron his $90 million Nike contract before LeBron ever even played one NBA basketball game, which, by the way, was more than what Kobe got. And Kobe had just moved from Adidas to Nike and didn't get as much as LeBron did. And Kobe had already won or had been in the league a few years. I don't know if he had already won a championship already, but yeah, LeBron's mindset about one, surrounding yourself with people who are gifted, talented, and who are doing the work and who are on the same path as you. Because they may not be there yet, but they can grow. I mean, Rich Paul didn't even know he wanted to be an agent when he met LeBron, but eventually he became his agent, and now he is one of the most powerful agents in the NBA, and has a huge client roster of really, really talented athletes. So yes, I agree with that 100%. Definitely keep those around you, but it has to be those who are on the same wavelength. It cannot be people who have been your friends just because they've been your friends, because that's the issue. I think a lot of times with nepotism, people hiring their friends, if they're not qualified and they're not willing to do the work, it gives a bad name to the idea of hiring people's friends, right? So you want to make sure they're qualified and they can do the work. And so Maverick Carter and Rich Paul both proved it beforehand and proved it afterwards, right? But 100%, yeah. If you can bring your friends along, do it 100%. Okay, Jose Cruz is in the house and he says Lakers. Yes, 100%. Laker Nation. Laker Nation, 100%. Shout out to the Lakers. It probably sounds crazy coming from me, who has spent most of my life in New York, but I'm a Lakers fan. I'm a fan of wherever LeBron is, and right now it's the Lakers, so I'm Laker Nation all the way. So Oreo says that's the problem we have in Africa, and I think that's what he's talking about, is the idea of bringing friends in who aren't qualified. That's exactly the issue, right? It's putting people on that don't deserve to be put on, right? Just because you're my friend, you should not be in that role. And that is why you have these different ministers of this and these under ministers or the secretary of this, who happen to be people who just are not qualified, and there's mismanagement of funds and things like that. You should definitely, it should be two things: people that you know that you can trust, but also that you know will do the job and that have proven it beforehand and have to continue to prove it once they're in that role. 100%. So we got Sabonis, I think that's your name, and from all the way from South Africa. I'm not even going to try to do the accent and what you said, bro. Yeah, but shout out to you from South Africa. Thanks for joining. We got people from all over the place in here. The next time I'm on, I'm going to start asking people to say where they're watching from, because I definitely want to see where everybody's coming from. All right, cool. We're now at 1 hour and 29 minutes. We're about to hit 1 hour and 30 minutes. Any more questions, comments, thoughts on all the things that I mentioned, the things that I hate, the recommendations that I made, reasons why I hate them, all that kind of stuff? Any thoughts on my thoughts? Any thoughts on anything we talked about today? Shout out to Cash from Dallas, Texas. You know what? Everybody else, where you guys watching this from? Let me know. Let me know in the comments. I want to know. Cash is in Dallas. I've never been. I've been to San Antonio, Houston, and Austin. Never been to Dallas. Odie's in Cleveland. Shout out to Cleveland. You guys just had a really big event there last weekend. I don't know if you were there to see Jake Paul beat Tyron Woodley. Crazy, crazy situation, but it happened. Okay, of course. Mrs. Soul Food is in Washington, D.C. Like I said, Odie's in Cleveland, Ohio. Cash is in Dallas, Texas. Miss P's in South Jersey. I think I remember you saying that from before. I know you guys, Destination Africa Group TV is in Accra. Shout out to you guys. I know you guys are here. David is in the Bay Area. Shout out to the Bay Area. I used to go to SF all the time for work. It's been a minute since I've been out there. Jack Jackson's from Jackson, Mississippi. Shout out to Mississippi. M-I crooked letter, I crooked letter, whatever, right? Isn't that what they say? I've never actually been to Mississippi at all. I've never been to the state of Mississippi ever. It's on the list though. At some point I gotta get there. YOA's from London, UK, but repping Ghana, of course. Thank you for the natural deep recommendation. Of course, always, always. Oreos in Dallas, Texas for college, originally from Cameroon. Oh, shout out to you. Hey, so I did a short film called The German King. Just gonna plug that really quickly. I say I did it. Let me take a step back. I'm a co-producer on a short film called The German King. It's about Rudolf Mangabell. I know you know who that is. Former, and so it's about his life growing up in Germany, coming back to Cameroon, and eventually being murdered by his best friend, who was actually the king of Germany. Crazy story, crazy story. But we did a short film. We're trying to turn it into a feature-length film, and so if you can, you won't be able to check it out now, but we'll have a public link to it at some point in time in the future. But yeah, I think you would really find it interesting. I'm gonna see if I can put it up on my YouTube channel at some point in time in the future. I have to talk to the director / executive producer, who is my cousin. He starred, directed, wrote, and executive produced it, and he also had other people, and he also raised money. I helped raise money as well. But it's I mean, we won about 26 awards now, 27 awards. We've been in almost 30 film festivals. It's critically acclaimed. I think you all would love it. We have to find a way to get it out to the people. So I'd like to do it on some of my social channels. We'll see if we can do that. But yeah, I will definitely make sure you all are aware when it does. And I think you'll like the story, Oriole, for sure. Sabonis says he likes the way I pronounce his name. Cool. I hope I said it right. I don't know. It looks like a familiar name I know from somebody from the NBA, spelled the same way. So that's how I got it. Jose Cruz says, United States of West Africa. My dream can be elected in Sierra Leone. You can be elected in Sierra Leone. I don't know how that works. I think you have to be born and raised in Sierra Leone to be in elected office, but I could be wrong. But yeah, I think you have to be born there to be elected in office, but not all office, some. But yeah, anyway, yes. Shout out to you, Jose. And you're in Phoenix. Yeah, I do remember you mentioning that before. Shout out to you in Phoenix. I have been to Phoenix, Arizona. It gets way too hot in Phoenix. I don't know how you guys live there. I was there for an e-commerce conference, and I remember we went to the mall, and the mall had I'd never seen this before, but the pathway into the mall had water spritzing, because it gets so hot that they spritz water on the people so they don't die from heat exhaustion. Crazy. So yeah, so shout out to Phoenix though. I don't know how you live out there. Shout out to you. So Timothy's out in South Carolina. Shout out to you. I've driven through South Carolina. Don't spend too much time there, but I do have a cousin living there. Cedric's in the OC. Shout out to the OC. I have been there many times. My sister lives in Orange County. She lives in San Juan Capistrano. So shout out to you. And you're originally from Benin. Nice. And Oreo says, sheesh, big effing deal, huh? I can't wait to watch it. Oh yeah. I got some stuff going on. Yeah. But yeah, I definitely want to share it with the world for sure. My platform isn't at the size yet at which I think it could have as big of an impact as I'd like. But it's not even up to me right now. It's up to someone else, and so I still have to work to convince him to allow me to put it up on my channel. But I once I do, I will encourage all of you to watch it. It's not just because I did it, because honestly, I didn't really have that much to do with the creative elements of it. I just helped raise money for the Indiegogo campaign before we actually started the filming process. I wasn't even there to film it because my full-time job wouldn't let me go. It was a whole thing. So I did not take part in the actual filming. I just took part in the building of the Indiegogo campaign, raising funding, and then looking to try to help raise funds now. It's very difficult because for me being here in Ghana, I was working on it when I was living in LA. But yeah, it did really well, much better than I anticipated. I had no idea what to expect, but I went in, hoping for the best and expecting the worst, and it did much better than I expected. So yeah, I think you guys will love it once it's out. Okay, Nick asked, and do I want to visit another African country? Excuse me. The answer is yes. So I do plan to go to Nigeria at some point in time before the end of the year. I'm trying to work on the scheduling now. I will be in Sierra Leone sometime in the next 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, for the next phase of the house building project once the rain stop in Sierra Leone. I need to go to Senegal and I need to go to Ivory Coast. Those are for sure in West Africa, places that I need to go. I also plan to go to Kenya, Egypt, South Africa as well, sometime in the near future within the next year or so. Still, and I need to go to Uganda too. I have a friend who's from Uganda and he says nothing but good things, so I definitely need to go. Okay. All right, guys. Now we're at an hour and 36 minutes. Quick time check. I always do that once we get to this late. If there are no more questions, no more comments, no more thoughts, I will bring this thing to a close. I'll give it another minute or so for any last second questions or comments before we bring it to a close. Any other questions from anybody? Anywhere? Let me drink my water, a little bit of water quick. We got a good night. We got a peace. All right, peace, Jose. Peace, Jack. Good night, Cedric. Thank you. I'm glad you liked the live. Thank you. Miss P says that was great. See you next week. Thank you. There was another question, of course, that came from Nick. So let me answer your question really quickly. I speak 2 languages, just to answer your question. English. I speak a bit of Creole, which is our one of our national languages in Sierra Leone. I understand it better than I speak it. I do my best to try to speak it. Yes, so the second language. All right, guys. With that, I want to thank you all for joining this live. Once again, you guys have been great. Lots of great conversation. It was awesome. Thanks again. And with that, I'll see you all on the next live.